James, we're back another week, sunny LA, back with another hard-hitting episode of ADSN. We've got a killer rundown today. So if you don't mind, I just want to get into it.
I don't mind. Get into it.
Let's do it. We're going to start today. And honestly, this podcast is turning into like 75% AI. Maybe one day we can AIify ourselves and they can run this.
That'd be cool.
But the first one we got is from Milk Road AI. It's a long one, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But he goes on to say Anthropic just released the most important chart in the AI labor debate. This comes from the company that builds Claude using data from 2 million real conversations. And it's a chart that kind of went viral over this past week of basically showing where Anthropic is seeing AI adoption and real production quality in different segments of the economy. And so you can think of that as like really heavily used in management, in business and finance, in architecture, in design, and a lot less in things like agriculture or transportation or production. And so it's a really, to me, like a really interesting way of seeing where AI is starting to influence business and then where there's still a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, I think this one, well, first of all, I think the funniest thing about this was how many people had comments around this style of chart being impossible kind of to understand and why like a bar chart would have been superior. I think that was like the main comment that probably AI had about it.
AI's got to do then.
But I think if you spent the weekend playing around with Claude, like, which as you know from like the 1,000 texts I sent you, I did, there's nothing really that surprising here. I mean, I think once you start playing with these tools long enough, you just look around and you're like, okay, like what is safe from this thing being better at it than anything? And so you go down this list and you're like, okay, personal care, like, I think that one, my assumption is not something made for AI robots. Construction, repair, transportation, all those things I think eventually you can imagine AI being great at, but like there's not a path right now. And then you go into like education, arts, legal, architecture, engineering, computer math, business, finance, management. It's really good at a lot of those things. And so I don't think there's anything too groundbreaking here. I guess the thing that I really have found myself thinking about a lot though is where is it not strong? So like you see protective services, right? That's like, I believe it says protective services. And it's again, like I think security isn't like made for this yet. I think like self-driving planes, like full autonomous like flight, I guess that one is maybe a ways out, but you could see it coming. So I don't know. People should play with Claude all weekend and then they're going to end up driving themselves nuts about what they're going to do in the future. So
I think like just to close this one out, I mean, I think like people may look at this chart and be like, oh my God, AI is coming for our jobs. And, in some cases, maybe it is that it's going to not necessarily replace, but evolve jobs. But even we've talked about it, sales is high on the list here. And I think that's really enablement. We talked about why sales is really hard to replace a good salesperson. And so AI here is probably an accelerator to a good salesperson.
It's funny. I got a text from someone who's a former Meta employee, sent me a note about our previous podcast, about how when they were at Meta, they were totally convinced that Meta was trying to AIify out the salespeople. And because I made a joke about it in the previous podcast, and that person was like, no, that's not a joke. Like they are absolutely, that is like, you could feel it when you were there. And so, yeah, I think really great salespeople are not going anywhere. I continue to think that is the case. But I think if you're a tier 2 seller, this thing's coming for you. And so I don't know. Yeah, but I am not a doomer, and I'm positive. And so that's why I'm going to switch to a more positive note, which is this post from I Am Jake's Mind. And Jake talks about how Meta CFO said something this week that stopped me in the tracks. He said, Susan Lee, who's CFO, said, we're not by and large using LLMs for ranking and recommendations work yet. And so I think basically what's happening right now, his entire point is that like a purpose-built machine that's been quietly built from the ground up since late 2025. Andromeda is the retrieval level. It scales billions of ads and builds a short list before the auction ever starts. It doesn't start with your audience. It starts with your creative. It's LLM inspired. It's obviously extremely sophisticated, but it's not starting from scratch. And so I think that he says the future version where the system reasons about your customer from scratch without needing years of engagement history first, that doesn't exist yet. And like that's the thing that requires data centers that they're still building, some of which are currently housed in tornado resistant tents. And so he's just basically going on to say that like this is the beginning of this whole path.
Yeah.
And I do think that like the overall tone here is eventually it's going to be awesome. But it is not as sophisticated as they may be setting out for everyone to think. But I also think, given how serious they are on the CapEx spend, it's going to become outrageously sophisticated. And that was kind of my takeaway from this one.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me, we've had conversations with folks that have built, David Liu, who we've shouted out many times, we'll do one more time, who's actually built these ad systems, the ranking layers, the delivery layers, the decisioning layers. And we were talking to him about like how to use LLMs in this, and he kind of laughed and he's like, anyone who tells you that they've replaced their ad system with like an LLM based ad delivery system just is flat out lying to you. And I think this goes to show, I mean, a lot of people are using AI as like a sales tactic, and a lot of platforms are saying, we have AI decision, we've got these agents that are helping find better users and drive efficiency. If one of the biggest ads companies in the world isn't there yet, and they're pouring billions of dollars into power and data centers, like it's Google and Amazon and Meta first, and then everyone else decades later on these rented systems probably.
It does make me think the ones who are actually in the best situation to get here fast are the ones who have legacy ad systems that they're willing to throw away.
Yeah.
Grok X, I think, is actually ironically one of them. Mm-hmm. Like you've seen, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I think that the X feed has gotten way better recently. And Nikita posted about this, but I believe that the feed now is using Grok for its recommendation engine. And so that could be one where like X ads get really good overnight because he kind of just speed runs to the end versus Meta having like now a little bit of a revenue trap, very good revenue trap that they shouldn't mess with. But nonetheless, a trap. So yes, I think there's a chance. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know why today I'm like a little AI doomer, very pro X. That's kind of where my head's at.
So no change from last week. All right.
Yeah. But I'm not a doomer. I believe it's going to be great.
You're a believer.
Yes.
Let's stay on the theme of Meta real quick. This one coming from Taylor Holiday, who was responding to a post from Kaz Smith, who's an advertiser. And Kaz Smith was basically saying they got permanently banned. Their account did. They've been on Facebook for 16 plus years, spent over $1.5 million. And they basically tried to set up using Claude and an MCP to automate some of their Meta ads processes. And they got permanently banned. And I was laughing because Taylor Holiday, who's very much in this space, just responded to basically all advertisers, don't do this. You have to have an approved app. You will get banned. And my favorite part of this, he said, Meta is enacting the Manus protection plan. And I think that is spot on. Meta is entrenching and saying, we're going to have one AI tool you can use, and it's ours.
I'm curious. I think he's a great follow, and I think he's right about 99% of things. But I'm curious I'd love to know a little bit more about what actually happened here, like what truly led to this.
Yeah.
Because it is so aggressive and it's sort of not in their best interest. But then on the other side, they bought Manus. I agree. I mean, I guess if you were to like just think of Manus as now being an extension of Meta AI and Ads Manager is just an app inside that wrapper, then maybe they only want you using that. it's pretty gangster of them to like do that. But I will say, just like, and I'm such a huge believer in Meta and a huge fan of everything they've done. And I think that like the way that they approach the API is great, but like that, I have so many friends. I probably get an email a week asking for an introduction to someone on the solutions engineering team at Meta to help them with their app that is like stuck in review.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if Meta is doing this, then they need to be nicer to the developers who are doing it the right way. That would be my ask.
That feels very AI-ifiable, automating some of these developer approvals.
Yes, they need to do that. I think that one, it is a black box in the worst way.
Yeah.
And I played around with Manus a little bit. It's awesome. And I guess, at some point, I guess they won't want you using Claude for this stuff. I don't know, man. I don't think they thought about it this much yet.
I don't think they thought about it. But if you look at their history, right, they've been open and then they close it. And so this is maybe them closing it and saying, we're going to have a tool and an MCP and everything that you can use, but we're going to control it all. And maybe this is that, where they're saying, okay, Manus is the start and Claude can work with it, but it's going to have to go through Manus. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, another thing that I don't think anyone knows, but I think this is a really good post about, is from the founder of Calico AI, David Roberts. He talked about services as software. That's the real opportunity for 90% of us. He's like, I keep watching smart people pour months into building beautiful UI applications that Anthropic and OpenAI are going to absorb in a single product update. He said it's going to feel archaic. And basically the money is in service as a software. And I thought about this while I was building something on Claude this weekend, about 2 apps this weekend. You've seen both of them. And I think he's right, basically. I think anything that requires basically service level providing or getting to like a broad network of hard to find people, like brokers, things like that. I think that feels defendable.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how I really think the golf industry is defendable. It's like, it's outside. You're like dealing with like people who have like a lot of disposable income.
Yeah.
But like everything else seems like Claude could do it really, really easily.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like the kind of branding around it as like service as a software, but I think really what it gets down to is like people want to deal with people in many cases. Like you want someone who's accountable. You want to be able to yell at somebody. Like you want to be able to go golf with somebody. You want someone to take you to the Lakers game because you're spending a lot of money with them. And like that is hard. Those things are hard to replace, those relationships. But I think you can automate the stuff that keeps you in the office until 12 a.m. and like get more efficient. And how do you get more leverage out of the 3 people at your company? But yeah, I think the human connection, is the one that obviously is hard to replace.
I just had like a funny visual in my head of Manus AI, like seeing my ad manager and then like performance, and I'm spending a lot, and like sending me a Waymo to like a Laker game, but like by myself, and just like me sitting in the back seat being like, kind of miss salespeople. You know?
Yeah. Just talking to you in the Waymo. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like, hey, good job. That's really like clever reel you put out there. I don't know.
I mean, on that note, I mean, just let's get back more into the optimism. This is the optimistic episode. This one by the founder of Open Mercado, Thomas Karwatka. Sorry if I butchered that, but he posted that there will be 100 successful startups built around one simple idea: automating enterprise procurement with AI agents. Most procurement teams today are basically a mini ERP with email as the API, PDFs, spreadsheets, supplier threads, approvals buried in inboxes, perfect environment for agents. And this one I loved. I mean, you and I have talked a lot about just the procurement process in general. I think it's even been made more difficult with AI, but at all the companies we've been to, procurement has been a great partner, but it's challenging. There's a lot of just like back and forth and paperwork to get all the information and then get more information and get on calls. And I love this. I mean, this has been such a challenge for us throughout our careers. And if we can simplify it, I think we'd sign up tomorrow.
I am oddly passionate about how annoying procurement is in these companies. Not the people. The people are great.
Yeah. The process.
But the process. Yes. I think we've talked about this. I literally text you about this all the time, but it's like, if what's going to happen is like, how good am I at hiring AI agents? Then I think procurement needs to be looked at as talent acquisition and less around like it being a tool. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for innovation here. But I think, if you were going to come up with an amazing procurement product tomorrow for like enterprise buyers, I think the hardest issue you would have is getting your procurement tool through procurement. So that's what I don't really get. It's like there's a chicken and the egg problem. But I do think it's a problem worth solving at some point.
Okay. Yeah. 16-year-old James, you always joke, not super excited that you're this into ads. I think you'd be way more disappointed that you're this passionate about procurement.
I really like procurement. Yeah, I think KYB and procurement are really interesting problems that in retrospect, probably I should put other thought power into, but whatever. Yes. And another oddly, I didn't really see this whole rundown. Another kind of doomer.
You saw doomer? I see a half glass full kind of thing here, but go ahead.
Okay. Buying opportunity. Drew Fallon said, JP Morgan downgrades 12 SaaS stocks. In our view, AI will not affect the sector uniformly, and the eventual winners and losers will be highly issuer specific. Companies with proprietary or regulated data sets, deeply embedded workflows, and mission critical roles in customer decision making appear better positioned to defend their franchises, while vendors whose offering are more feature driven face greater risk of erosion and disintermediation. This is kind of a good kind of continuation of the conversation we had with Dante at Block, where like, there's definitely, if you're like a feature based business, you can spin up any feature. I mean, like I shipped like 12 features this weekend on my little app. And actually Mike Christo, former guest in the pod, I told him I was typing. He called me and he was like, "You're such an idiot," basically. I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Use whisper flow." He's like, engineer. He's like, developers don't like type anymore; they talk. And so then I switched to talking, and you can whisper via whisper flow, and you can ship so much stuff. So like any feature can get made. Anything that is like anything that you could sort of assemble like it's Legos. Can now be built with software. So like, I agree. It's like if you have to have some proprietary data set, or you have to have some embedded workflow or to some regulatory moat, because like pure software is way too easy to build right now. Even the craziest shit you can think of, Claude was like working on writing algorithms for me using the internal GPU of my laptop, like fried my laptop. But we can do like all the hard things that we ever wanted to do, we can do now. Actually, as like a self-professed idea guy, it's kind of disappointing because you can like get it done so fast. And you're like, oh man, maybe the idea sucked. Yeah.
You just validate it immediately. You're like, oh, those ideas were not great.
I didn't nail it as much as I thought.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like this mostly because there's been so much negativity around SaaS as a sector. And I think that's been an overreaction to just the unknown. And I think this is like a really good framing around it of just like, there will be winners and losers, just like every other sector in all of history. Like, there will be winners who have something that is defensible. And for all those things that you mentioned, like if you have those, I mean, it's the same as Porter's 5 forces, or use whatever framework you want. Like you need a moat around your business, and AI is no different. It's just going to accelerate and expose those that don't. But speaking of that, I'm going to take a victory lap on a short-term victory lap here. We've got Milk Road AI again, talking about Visa. Just
a double Milk Road AI.
This one is for me to take that victory lap early.
And I saw this one.
Visa just gave your AI a debit card. I think you've been very bullish on the stable coin. And I think long-term, you're right. I think today's infrastructure, it is spinning up virtual cards to give your AI agent some autonomy. But I thought this was really interesting, just given how much we've talked about payments and that now agents have the ability to go spend on your behalf in a protected way.
Yes, I think that agents are going to spend money on your behalf. And I think they're probably going to use wallets and not the credit card pipes, or rails. But I think it actually is funny, kind of comes back into procurement. I'm still really confused about how if agents are spending on your behalf and buying things, how they're allowed to buy things for you. If there's going to be all these microtransactions across the B2B agent workflow, good luck getting through procurement, little agent, regardless if you have your, virtual card or stable coin. I think, more internal agents collaborating seem like a better short-term option, which is a nice segue to this Peter Yang post from LinkedIn. We've moved off of X and we're in LinkedIn land. But Peter's a product lead at Roblox. And he's basically said, watching 6 AI agents design an app together generally blew my mind. And basically the CEO of Pencil showed him how 6 different design agents were all working together in this video. And it's crazy. It's such a good, it's such a great way to visualize how this is going to work, where I think people need an interface just to kind of wrap their heads around, but you're going to end up being if you're like us and you've done a bunch of product work, you've obviously been in Figma and it's multiplayer and you're with a bunch of people you work with, very soon you'll be in Figma doing that. And you may be with a person who's totally synthetic and AI working back and forth. They may just be the best design partner you've ever had. Yeah. But that workflow, I think, is going to come a lot of places. Eventually, I think it almost becomes an iterative step where you probably don't need it. But for the next few years, I think multiplayer, many humans, many AIs together is a really interesting workflow that has some great applications. You can think of it in presentation building for sure, design, and I just think iteration, how much, when you talk to Claude, having more multiplayer conversations, I think can be pretty cool.
Yeah. And I do like that this is an intermediate step, probably to get more people comfortable with it, honestly, to show them the work that's being done. I mean, it's kind of like that old adage where by design, you put a little spinning wheel so people think that you're thinking. And it's I want to, I'm more comfortable seeing this AI go drag and drop in the things I'm used to, as opposed to just disappearing and coming back with a full-fledged deliverable. I mean, being what happened? Obviously we end up getting there, but this, it's pretty incredible to watch these 6 AI agents go at once designing real designers. It's pretty cool.
You know what? It's a good RFP. Quick RFP. Peter Yang. I was just actually looking at his LinkedIn. I don't know Peter, but he's got a really great take on a lot of this multiplayer stuff. RFP, Peter Yang, Roblox. Talk to us about the future. And given he's at Roblox, he understands multiplayer probably pretty well. So that is going to be where I go from that. You're allowed to do an RFP on week 2, but this week it's mine.
No, I like to see where these go.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. We still haven't gotten that Dalio, that Ray Dalio guy.
That's just the always on RFP here. So if anyone's got a connection to Dalio.
Yes.
But speaking of fun,
request for Dalio.
For Dalio. The persistent RFD with weekly RFP.
Yes.
But speaking of fun, let's get into primary posts. I want to hear yours today.
Oh, primary post. Love primary posts. My primary post was from Scott Belsky, who is a partner at A24. He's founder of Behance. He was at, I think he was at Adobe forever too, right? But he said, it's so much easier to build something new than change something old, especially amidst platform shifts. Having less change management lets you anchor with first principles, ignore sunk costs, and build what you see your industry being 3+ years from now. And I thought that was super insightful and helpful framing. And I think in some ways I try to use that as a guiding principle for a lot of stuff that we do. especially now that like we're in TV where it's like combined between like old and new.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anyone right now, especially if you're sitting there kind of, especially like in Claude code land, try to just abstract away as much as you can. Like that's like, I'm really trying now just to think like, what the hell does the world look like 3 years from now? And then how do we work backwards?
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to do that yet, but I'm working on it. If anyone has ideas, tell me. But yeah, I thought it was a really good one out of him.
I like that one. I like that. We'll bring that into every day outside ADSN.
Okay.
All right, my primary post today is by Ara Karazian, who's the lead economist at Ramp Economics Lab, which, if you haven't checked it out, is very cool. Ramp, the corporate card company, basically aggregates their data and has a bunch of reports on what's happening.
Ooh, new segment.
New segment?
Because we have our first sponsor in Beehive. I have a second sponsor idea. An RFS, request for sponsor.
Okay.
Ramp.
Ara, we're coming for you. Ara,
I think that they should. I think they should sponsor this. I love the Ramp card. It's the best card, and their data set is awesome, and they do so much cool shit with it that I think they should do that. So RFS.
An RFS.
Okay.
Ara, I'm coming for you. But before I email you, I'm going to show your data. I thought it was super interesting. We talk so much about AI, but they actually have like how businesses are spending on AI. And so he shows basically over the last year plus, the shift in business spend from OpenAI to Anthropic. And like, it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's almost 90% OpenAI a year ago, and now it's flipped. It's like 70% Anthropic. And then you go start to look at the business API spend, and it's a similar story. Not as surprising, but Anthropic owns that. And to me, it was, you generally think that like Slack, if you can get users to use a product and then they can infect an organization, you kind of win. Here, we're seeing the opposite. Like OpenAI infected consumers. Anthropic has just slowly beat the enterprise drum and is finally, they're just crushing it.
Yeah. I posted about this week where I've decided, so I fully switched from ChatGPT to Claude for everything. And it was super easy. Like, and the whole, there's the switching cost is none. Like the memory thing, you just tell it everything about yourself one more time. It's fine. And then, but I think right now, Claude is to X as ChatGPT is to Instagram. So I think everyone uses Claude and everyone's on X. I'm not sure if that's what the real world's actually like. I think the real world is still Instagram and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And which is ironic because the head of product at Claude is the former head of product at Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I think. So I think this is really interesting, but probably everyone's still using ChatGPT.
Yeah. Well, this is business. So to Ramp's credit, this is all business spend.
Yep.
So if Amex or someone can come out, let's see the consumer data.
Oh, yeah. All right. I like it.
Another RFD, a request for data. We've got all these requests out. Someone's got to answer.
RFs. Yeah. RFs. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Good rundown, bud.
Let's wrap it today. Great rundown. I'll see you next week. All right.
This week's episode of ADSN, big shout out to our first title sponsor, Beehive. Danny, this is a big one.
We're excited. We're buzzing with excitement. In fact, this is the platform built for growth. Substack killer, MailChimp killer. If you've got a newsletter, if you're a creator, you have to check out this platform. We use it. Follow us at theadsn.com. You'll get our weekly newsletter powered by Beehive every single week in your inbox.
If you're in the content game, use Beehive.